Theodore Nash, the Vampire Killer. Written by Ashley Carvel. Narrated by Peter McGiffin. Introduction. Every town has its shadows. In 1943, East Hounslow, those shadows belonged to a killer. Not a monster out of stories, not some creature with fangs and myth behind it. No, this was something colder, smarter, human. They called him the Vampire Killer, a name born from rumour, from ritual, victims drained, their lives measured and displayed with deliberate care. 6 bodies, no clear motive, no connection, no mistakes. And when the war-weary streets started whispering about monsters, the kind that wore a man's face, someone had to listen. Enter Theodore Nash, a mind sharper than most, quieter than some would like, and not nearly as detached as he pretends to be. This isn't a story about vampires. It's about patterns, obsession, and the cost of chasing truth when the shadows run deeper than anyone dares admit. A House of Stillness. 22 minutes past 9, 7th of March, 1943. 12 Bridge Road, East Hounslow. Theodore Nash stepped out of the police car, his polished shoes pressing into the damp cobblestone street. The cold bite of the night air settled into his coat as he took in the scene before him. A 2-story house, its exterior modest but well kept, standing at the very edge of the village. The front door was slightly ajar, an eerie invitation into silence. A police lantern flickered against the gloom, casting long, twisted shadows onto the pavement. The street beyond was empty. Curtains in neighbouring houses remained drawn, their inhabitants choosing ignorance over curiosity. The villagers here had learned, long before tonight, that when death came knocking, it was best not to listen. Detective Inspector James Radcliffe stood at the threshold, adjusting his coat against the chill. His expression, as always, was unreadable, stone-faced, yet carrying the weight of someone who had seen far too many of these scenes. He was broad-shouldered, silver threading his temples, and his presence carried the kind of authority that rarely required words. Standing a few steps behind him, Detective Wallace Tuckton struck a match against his shoe, lighting a cigarette with the ease of a man who treated murder scenes like casual inconveniences. His hair was dishevelled, his tie loosened, and his mouth was curved into what could only be described as an amused smirk. "You took your time," Radcliffe muttered, his eyes flicking toward Theo. Theo took a measured breath, adjusting his gloves. "Time is relative." Tuckton let out a short bark of laughter. "Ah, classic Nash. Just arrived and already sounding like an insufferable prick." Theo ignored him, stepping past both men into the house. The moment he crossed the threshold, the air thickened, heavy with the scent of copper and something almost sickly sweet. The dim light from the street barely penetrated the gloom, leaving long shadows stretching across the walls. The silence was near absolute, broken only by the distant metronome ticking of a clock. The house wasn't abandoned, nor was it in disarray. No overturned furniture, no signs of forced entry. Everything remained precisely where it should be, except for the body in the centre of the room. It hung from the wooden beam above, upside down, ankles bound by thick, meticulously tied rope. The victim's throat was slashed clean across. The wound, so precise it almost looked surgical. Blood had flowed freely, forming a perfectly symmetrical circle on the floor beneath. Theo tilted his head slightly, taking in the scene like a painter admiring the strokes of a masterpiece. There was something deeply intentional about the way the body had been displayed. No chaos, no excess. Whoever had done this had experience.